Hello everyone, I am Sneha Nandini. Today in this webinar, we are going to deal with the topic antihypertensive drugs. Today we'll talk about introduction, that is what is normal arterial blood pressure, what is hypertension, what are its grades, and coming to its management is a major topic, that is classification of antihypertensive drugs, and we are going to deal about each drug in detail. So this is the basic introduction. What is arterial blood pressure? We all know that arterial blood pressure is the lateral pressure exerted by the moving column of blood on the walls of the arteries in which it flows. This is the definition we have read in our first year physiology. And coming to the normal range of blood pressure in an adult whose age varies from 20 to 40 years of age is 120 by 80 mm of Hg. The systolic one ranges from 90 to 140 mm of Hg, and the diastolic pressure ranges from 60 to 90 mm of Hg. This is our topic. What is hypertension? We saw arterial blood pressure is something normal that we could see in a person. Okay, so coming to what is hypertension? Hypertension is either a sustained increase in systolic or diastolic blood pressure or both, which we term it as systemic or simple hypertension. We grade this hypertension into two types: primary or essential and secondary hypertension. The most common risk factor or causes of primary or essential hypertension are obesity, sedentary life, stress, alcoholism, smoking, and most commonly hereditary causes. Okay, and coming to secondary, the causes include renal hypertension, endocrinal origin, atherosclerosis, and pheochromocytoma. This slide shows you the classification of blood pressure for normal adults or adults whose pressure varies from ranges. So here in the category optimal, we say a person has optimal blood pressure when his systolic blood pressure is less than 120 and diastolic blood pressure is less than 80. For a person to be concluded as normal, his systolic blood pressure should range between 120 to 129 and diastolic should range between 80 to 84. For a person to be hypertensive, his blood pressure varies from systolic 130 to 139 and diastolic 85 to 89. From here on, we stage the hypertension into two, stage 1 and stage 2. For a person to be in stage 1, his pressure varies from systolic 140 to 159 and diastolic 90 to 99. For stage 2, 160 to 179 systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure 100 to 109 mm of Hg. So when you suspect a person is hypertensive, what are the investigations you should see to confirm him to be hypertensive? They are electrocardiogram to check his cardiac functions, urine analysis to check his renal functions, and serological tests like plasma renin, thyroid function test, and full blood count. What are the management? The lifestyle modifications, as we all know, include smoking cessation, regular exercise, balanced diet, reduced salt intake, and reduced alcohol intake. So coming to the proper or high efficiency management, we deal with antihypertensive drugs, which is our topic for webinar today. Classification of antihypertensive drugs. In pharmacology, you all must remember classification plays a major role. Okay, so the first group of drugs are diuretics. The drugs in diuretics include thiazides, high ceiling, and aldosterone antagonists. Okay, so diuretics will be dealt as a separate webinar. Coming to the second group of drugs, they are renin-angiotensin system inhibitors. The group of drugs include ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers, and direct renin inhibitors. Some of the drugs in angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors are captopril, enalapril, lisinopril, perindopril. And angiotensin receptor blockers are losartan, candesartan, telmisartan. So, direct renin inhibitors include aliskiren. Sympathetic inhibitors, beta-adrenergic blockers, alpha and beta-adrenergic blockers, alpha-adrenergic blockers alone, and central sympatholytics. Calcium channel blockers include phenylalkylamine, benzothiazepine, and dihydropyridines. Vasodilators include arteriolar dilator and venodilator. And arterial dilator plus venodilator. So here is a simple code word for remembering the drugs of ACE inhibitors. You see here the drugs include captopril, enalapril, benzapril, and other drugs like lisinopril and all that ends with pril. So here ACE inhibitors and pril you can remember with the word April. Okay, beta blockers, the drugs like propranolol, atenolol, metoprolol, sotalol, all this ends with the term olol. So beta blockers can be remembered with the end olol. Coming to our first group of drugs, ACE inhibitors, here you have to remind that ACE inhibitors are the first line drugs in the management of hypertension. Okay, first we'll look after the mechanism of action. In a normal hypertensive individual, what happens is this angiotensinogen is converted into angiotensin 1, and this angiotensin 1 is converted into angiotensin 2 by angiotensin converting enzyme. Okay, so this angiotensin converting enzyme, what it does is it converts angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2, and this acts on two different receptors, angiotensin 1 receptor and angiotensin 2 receptor. Okay, the blood pressure increases in this way. So what happens when you give ACE inhibitors, that is our first line drugs? They inhibit the angiotensin converting enzyme here. So the angiotensin 1 is not converted to angiotensin 2. So their action on angiotensin receptor 1 and angiotensin receptor 2 is blocked. In the same time, in a normal person, the bradykinin gets degraded into inactive peptides, so there is no deposition of bradykinin. So when a person takes angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, the bradykinin produced is not converted into inactive peptides. Okay, and also here you can see these angiotensin 2 present in the blood vessel as receptor causes vasoconstriction that leads to reduced peripheral vascular resistance and increased BP. So when you stop this receptor action by giving ACE inhibitors, what happens? Blood pressure decreases. So whatever the drug we are giving, our sole response should be decrease in blood pressure. Okay. Coming to the therapeutic uses of angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, you have to remember the code word. Home care makes patient definitely strong. Here you have to remember with the first word you have therapeutic uses. Okay. For home you can remember with hypertension, which is our sole use for which we are prescribing the drug. Okay. Hypertension. ACE inhibitors are used in all grades of hypertension. Okay, and the next one is congestive cardiac failure. They can be prescribed to all patients with impaired left ventricular function. And next is acute myocardial infarction. They have shown both short-term and long-term improvement in survival and decrease in reinfarction. They also should be started within 24 hours in patients with myocardial infarction. The next is prophylaxis of cardiovascular risk subjects, diabetic nephropathy. ACE inhibitors and ARBs, that is the next topic we are going to deal with, angiotensin receptor blockers, are preferred in diabetic nephropathy in hypertensives, as well as in normotensive patients. Scleroderma renal crisis. ACE inhibitors prevent the effects of angiotensin 2 in the renal artery. Thus, they are effective in the treatment of scleroderma renal crisis. Coming to the adverse effects of ACE inhibitors, you know, the first drug we deal with here is captopril. So you can remember this as a code word for adverse effects. Here, the most important adverse effect of ACE inhibitors is persistent dry cough, which is due to increased bradykinin. So when the bradykinin we saw in the mechanism, this bradykinin is not reduced into its inactive peptides. So this level in the body, that bradykinin increases, which leads to persistent dry cough. The other causes, other adverse effects include allergic reactions, potassium elevation, taste change, edema, photosensitivity, neutropenia, renal failure, indigestion, and low blood pressure. And the most important thing you have to remember here, the contraindication of ACE inhibitors in pregnancy. Okay. Coming to our next group of drugs, angiotensin receptor blockers. The mechanism is as of same here, okay? The RAS system only, the angiotensinogen is converted into angiotensin 1, but here the ACE is not blocked. It remains functional. But what happens here? That is angiotensin receptor blockers. So it acts specifically on angiotensin 1 receptor and competitively blocks the receptor. Okay, but this remains angiotensin 2 receptor normal. So what this is called is competitive antagonism. Okay. Coming to the therapeutic uses of angiotensin receptor blockers is the same as that of ACE inhibitors. It is used in hypertension, congestive cardiac failure, myocardial infarction, and diabetic neuropathy. Here, the most important advantage of this drug is that they do not affect bradykinin production. So, this drug can be used in patients who are sensitive or develop cough with ACE inhibitors. Okay, this is the way you have to remember. ACE inhibitors produce dry cough. ARBs do not produce dry cough. So ARBs can be given to patients who develop cough with ACE inhibitors. They also prevent or delay the development of renal complications in diabetes. Coming to our next group of drugs, they are direct renin inhibitors. The drugs in direct renin inhibitors include aliskiren. Okay, so what is the mechanism of action of aliskiren here is, it blocks the conversion of angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1. So what this blocks the mechanism of action of renin here. So this aliskiren, by inhibiting renin, decreases the levels of angiotensin 1 and angiotensin 2. So this is useful in hypertension in combination with the diuretic, ACE inhibitors or ARBs. The adverse effects of this drug include diarrhea, abdominal pain, headache and angioedema. Coming to the next group of drugs, they are sympatholytics. In that, first we are going to deal with beta-adrenergic blockers. When you give a hypertensive person beta blocker, what happens is it acts on the heart and causes reduction in heart rate and force of contraction and cardiac output. As a whole, the net effect we get here as a result of giving beta blocker is reduced BP. And this drug also acts in the kidney. The second site of action here is kidney. It acts on the kidney and causes reduced renin release. As we saw in other mechanisms, when renin action is decreased, the net effect is blood pressure decreases here. Okay. These beta blockers are effective in all grades of hypertension. Okay, the uses include, it is used in young hypertensives with high renin levels, patients with associated conditions like angina, post-MI, migraine, and psychosomatic disorders, patients receiving vasodilators to counteract reflex tachycardia. These drugs can be given. So what are the adverse effects? These drugs may precipitate congestive cardiac failure and bronchospasm. It may cause sexual dysfunction in males. They cause nightmare. Sudden stoppage of this drug leads to withdrawal syndrome. This is the thing we have to remember. The next group of drugs we are going to see here is centrally acting sympatholytics that include clonidine. So when a person takes, this is a centrally acting sympatholytic drug, okay? This is highly lipid soluble and it rapidly crosses the blood-brain barrier. Okay, the mechanism of action here, this clonidine stimulates the alpha-2A vasomotor center receptor. Okay, so what happens when this clonidine stimulates alpha-2A receptor that is presented in the VMC is, this decreases the sympathetic outflow from the vasomotor center. What happens? This causes reduction in heart rate, reduction in cardiac output, which leads to reduction in blood pressure. At the same time, this affects the blood vessel that leads to decrease in peripheral vascular resistance and thus reduction in BP. What are the uses and adverse effects of this clonidine? Uses include in hypertension, to treat withdrawal syndrome in opioid and alcohol addicts, and smoking cessation. It is also used as pre-anesthetic agent. It is used as antidiarrheal in diabetic neuropathy. It is used to reduce postmenopausal hot flushes. It is also used in prophylaxis of migraine. The adverse effects of this drug include dryness of the mouth and eyes, sedation, depression, bradycardia, impotence, nausea, dizziness, and parotid gland swelling. Coming to the next group of drugs, that is alpha-methyl-dopa. It is a centrally acting sympatholytic agent. So when you give a person alpha-methyl-dopa, what happens? It acts on alpha-methyl-dopamine and gets converted into alpha-methyl noradrenaline, which then stimulates the alpha-2 vasomotor center, which affects the central sympathetic outflow and further causes decrease in heart rate and decrease in peripheral vascular resistance. Thus, the final net effect that we want is BP is reduced. Okay, here the central sympathetic outflow is decreased. Coming to the adverse effects of alpha-methyl-dopa, it causes nasal stuffiness, headache, sedation, depression, dryness of the mouth, bradycardia, impotence, gynecomastia, hepatitis, and rarely hemolytic anemia. So here, clonidine and alpha-methyl-dopa are used as second or third line agents in hypertension. And one thing you have to brush up here is ACE inhibitors are used as first line drugs in treatment of hypertension. And also here is a contraindication. That is not contraindication. Here, these drugs are preferred antihypertensives during pregnancy, whereas ACE inhibitors are contraindicated during pregnancy. Coming to adrenergic neuronal blockers, the drug is reserpine. Okay, it has both central and peripheral actions. Reserpine-induced antihypertensive effect is mainly due to depletion of biogenic amines. Okay, this is a small drug, you can just remember like that. Adverse effects include depression, sedation, and sleep disturbances. What happens when you give reserpine is it enters the adrenergic neurons. It then binds to the storage vesicles and inhibits the vesicular catecholamines uptake and storage. What happens? These catecholamines then get accumulated in the vesicles, right? As it does not come out, it gets accumulated, and then due to over storage, it then leak into the cytoplasm, which is then destroyed by monoamino oxidase enzyme. Coming to the next group of drugs, they are alpha adrenergic blockers. These alpha blockers are classified into non-selective blockers and selective alpha-1 blockers. The drugs in non-selective blockers, that is alpha-1 and alpha-2 combined, is phenoxybenzamide and phentolamine. Selective alpha-1 blockers are prazosin, terazosin, doxazosin. What happens when you give a non-selective blocker? They block the receptors in blood vessels, both alpha-1 and alpha-2 receptors. Then what happens? There is vasodilation and fall in BP. Increased noradrenaline is released due to presynaptic alpha-2 blockade. What happens when you give a person a selective alpha-1 blocker? The drugs like prazosin, terazosin, and doxazosin, they block selectively alpha-1 vascular receptors by competitive mechanism. So there is vasodilation and fall in BP. Terazosin and doxazosin are longer acting than prazosin. Okay, you have to remember that. Prazosin may also cause first dose phenomenon. So coming to non-selective alpha blockers and selective alpha-1 blockers, that is a small difference you can remember with. Non-selective alpha blockers, they are not preferred for essential hypertension, but they are used to treat hypertension in conditions like pheochromocytoma, clonidine withdrawal, and Cheese reaction. Selective alpha-1 blockers, prazosin is not preferred because it causes first dose hypertension, that is postural hypertension that occurs after the first dose. Therefore, the initial dose when you give a person as prazosin should be small, that is 1 mg, and usually given at bedtime so that the patient remains in bed for several hours. Hence, it reduces the risk of fainting attacks. Thank you for your patient listening. The other drugs will be covered in session 2. Thank you.